What's that around?
I think he's also got a couple of
Welcome to See Tranquility Fall Fest 2024, everybody. Thanks all for coming. I know we're going to have a lot of people coming in and out during the day, and forgive me for my voice. I lost my voice yesterday. I've had a cold all week, and if you would have heard me yesterday, I wouldn't have even known as much. So I do want to thank everybody, because this just happened, right? Yeah. Honestly, I don't even remember what we were at 2 years ago for the first Fall Fest, but it seems like it's been a long journey to get here. Now that we finally got 100,000, it's a big number, right? Honestly, when I started this channel, I never thought we would get that high, but Rob Lasante's in the house. But it's good to get there, and now I can kind of move on to other things, and that's important. But programming and getting the show out on a daily basis it's a lot of work, it's a lot of fun. And not to have the little monkey on my back, it's like 99,700, 780. It's good to finally get over that. So we've got a full afternoon of panel discussions. We're recording these, so we'll be putting them up on the channel probably tomorrow, I would assume, so for all those who couldn't make it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
So we got In the Prog seat first. So we want to introduce the In the Prog seat crew one at a time. Who's coming in first for In the Prog seat?
All rush.
One at a time.
Take your time, how are you?
Mr. George Lemire, all the way from Chicago, is here. Our next panelist, he doesn't know this yet, but he cannot participate in today's activities unless he wears this shirt.
My size?
I'm just joking. Ken Golden's here. I don't need to stand back. Still hear me? We can find out. All right, next up. Here's a guy who I probably should confer with a lot more when it comes to running a festival, because he knows how to run a festival. The guy who put Nearfest together for all those years. Our very own Mr. Chad Hutchinson. Beer connoisseur, and that's not a hazy, I think, right?
Hell no.
Yeah, there you go. There'll be a lot of inside jokes today, so there it is. Next up, here we have a Hudson Valley original right here. Not only is he the newest member of In the Prog seat, although not that new anymore, but he does double duty. He also does the Hudson Valley Squares. The Cans himself, Mr. Chris Canzaneri. Aha, from our capital region. Damn good guitar player, damn good friend. Mr. Eric Porter's in the house today. So he came all the way from Canada. We have a few people from Canada today. And not only is he going to be taking part in some panel shows, because he's appeared on every show on the channel, he's also the co-host and creator of Live Album Love. He's also a regular guest on the review crew, and he was providing our musical entertainment tonight, Mr. Rick Labonte. All the way from Austin, Texas. He couldn't make it the last time. He has also been on many shows on the channel here, including The Curse of the Collector, and of course a regular on the review crew. He also appears on my other channel, Comic Book Easels, from time to time. Mr. Scott Berry. School's in session, folks. He's not going to be on the panel, but the principal is here. Mr. Gary Toyce.
Hello. I'll let you guys get settled. I don't think it'd be so.
So our topic for this session today, I asked everybody on the Proxy crew to pick their favorite year in progressive rock, and then pick the 3 albums from that year that are their favorites. So a certain guy on the panel said, everybody's going to pick 1973. I bet you. Who do you think made that statement? The guy who's going to wear the Kiss shirt. No. So it'll be interesting, because 1973 was a great year. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody picks. Close? I wasn't ready to get
It was the closest to level cut.
Wasn't that the first guess out?
Someone get a picture of that,
I know, right? Wait for it to be set.
Ken, wasn't the first kiss out in 1973?
Yes, it was.
No, that's one Ken's out.
74.
How do you know I know?
Oh, 70. Recorded.
All right, so we're going to start over with Scott. So favorite year of Prog and your 3 favorite albums from that year.
All right, and we're doing them all at once, right?
Do them all at once.
Okay. My number 1, or excuse me, my number 3, went with, yeah. Sorry, I thought we were doing this like we do it on the video.
See that?
Well, Peter Gabriel debut solo album, aka Car. Is this working? I can't even hear myself.
Yes, it's working.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Here, he is over here.
And it's, I would say, this is my number 3. It's Pete is one of the great voices of
What year?
of Prog. It's 1977. 1977. And I think this one tends to get a little overlooked and it's kind of underrated. Ken, back when you guys did the Security album, Deep Dive, whatever, you mentioned that it was one that he's showing you everything he could do, right? And as a result, maybe it seems a little like maybe he's doing a little too much, maybe kind of overdoing it a bit, maybe it's not focused enough. To me, that's what I love about it. He's doing everything but the kitchen sink. I can kind of do without the track Excuse Me. I think most of us can, most of us know this album pretty well. But you got Moribund the Burgermeister. What a great, I think he's still got a foot in Prog on that one. Got kind of weird voices. It's very uplifting and majestic. Salisbury Hill, great little folky tune. Modern Love, humdrum, slow burn, great deep cuts. Waiting for the Big One has got this great sort of jazzy, bluesy thing going on. Down the Dolce Vita, just huge, epic. A lot of orchestration on that one, love it. And the big finish, Here Comes the Flood. Just what a great album. Number 2, Pink Floyd, Animals. Had to be done. It's gone up in my rankings in the last few years. It used to be maybe a number 5 for me, but it's just surpassed the wall for me. It's my number 3 Pink Floyd album. Absolutely love it. It's a little dark and dystopian. Band members, they're all playing at their top of their abilities. Gilmore just kills on the tracks that he sings on, and I love that guitar at the end of Sheep. The Dogs, I love the back and forth with the acoustic and electric guitars. Richard Wright, really earns his pay here, providing atmosphere for the entire album. Nick Mason, never a flashy drummer, but he tends to be very precise. And Waters, he tends to dominate as far as the concept of the album, but I think it's definitely one of his finest hours. Like I said, I like it better than The Wall. And I like his deranged sort of vocals on Pigs. The recent remix from 2022, if you don't have it, it's worth getting, absolutely. You hear a lot of just things that you didn't notice the first time around. And of course, my number 1, when Pete had first mentioned this, I thought first what my number 1 band used to be before I thought of the year. And I thought, okay, what are their top 4 favorite albums? And then I had to figure, okay, it also has to be a year where there's other strong picks I can have. And I went with Farewell to Kings, which I think this is the one where they're really coming into their own here. I mean, not to knock the earlier albums, but this is like the first one what I would call like perfect or almost perfect. It's not really a bad track on it. It has a great flow to it. This is where I think, they're often, Rush is often, their music is described as a mix of prog and either hard rock or metal. And I would say this is definitely the pinnacle of that. It's very true here and on the follow-ups hemispheres. I think that's where the prog and the metal or hard rock really blend in the best. The songs are just incredible. And I actually like Closer to the Heart. I mean, I know it's kind of the big hit, and maybe it's a little overplayed, but I still enjoy it. But for me, it's really the big meat and potatoes here. That it's the two big epic tracks. You got Xanadu, and you got Sex 1. And Xanadu, it just does everything you want. It's got everything you want in a Rush song. It's heavy, it's proggy, it's up, it's down, it's got great guitar work, it's got great drumming, and Geddy's vocals on this album, I think, this is where his vocals start to get a little more control. He's a little less shrieky, like he was on the earlier albums. And he's just got a lot more control in the voice. But and if you look at the notes, I won't read them, but see what everybody plays on this. You can really see them expanding. I mean, they've got like each of them is playing like 5 or 6 different things here. So yeah, excellent album.
Way to go.
1977.
Okay, I'm used to this. Here we go. Microphone is not.
Lead man.
It's a friend of mine. Anyway, my year. Go ahead, guys. Have a seat. It's all good. My year. I don't know. This is kind of tough, but I have to go with the most of my favorite albums of that year. That's how I summed it up. And that'd be 1972. My favorite Jethro Tull album is Ticket to Work. Right, and my favorite Yes is Close to the Edge. My favorite Genesis is Octopus. And then there's other contenders, whether it's ELP or, other, they have some good albums, maybe not my favorite, but if I'm going to say any year that's got to define Prog in a big way, I mean, the 2 albums I mentioned, one is it got 1 song, the whole album, so how epic is that? And even the idea, I actually thought when I was a kid, the newspaper might be real. There's a snapshot of what I started reading it, and I thought, no, I see it as a pretty hard concept, but for there, they had me for at least side A. Anyway, till I realized it's a concept album, so it's kind of cool. And to me, that showed you the artist at that time, or the trend of that time, because let's face it, from 72 to 74, Prog was king. That was magnificent years. It infected everybody. From Led Zeppelin had to toy with that, with House of the Holy to Proggy signature. Black Sabbath, many people have looked at this year's performance from those bands, say we need to step it up at one point, I'm sure. And maybe not to take as long as Yes does for like 3 songs for an album, but they definitely want to throw everything into it. I would even say Sir Paul McCartney is affected by, Band on the Run. It's a 3-minute song. Look how much stuff they can throw in a song. It got very common that they wanted to show that time signature or creativity, and sure how encourage people like the $1 Billion Babies album in the future to get creative. All kinds of artists look at the prog scene saying, "It's an excuse for us to do something a little different." I know Sgt. Pepper already stepped that license, maybe Pep Downs and so on, but it became a norm. Almost all the greatest albums that you saw on the chart, 72 on, everybody was trying to do epic shit. Whether it's Supertramp coming in before you, the Vandy Brother mentioned Rush and a few others, they're around the corner. All of them, I'm guaranteed, had those 3 out.
Way to go. Good job.
First, thanks, Pete. I wish we could do this once a month, maybe. It's just great. Thanks everybody for coming, and I love seeing these guys. We talk on video, but this is great. So I love this. Thank you very much, Pete. I'm gonna kind of get next to Scott, but not 77. So I was 10 years old, and the reason why I'm gonna pick this year, you'll find out. But I'm the guy who always bags on singers. So I'm going through, and if you watch 4 Fusion Friday, George actually mentioned on our latest episode we both use a site called Rate Your Music. And I went out and I tried to look and see what do I have. You put our collections in there, you kind of rate the albums. So I wanted to see what I had as my 5-star records. So, as I said, I always bag on singers. Kansas Leftoverture is probably one of my favorite records, and I love Steve Walsh. I love him. My favorite singer, probably. So I'm going with 1976. That would be my number 3. My number 2, thanks to Pete and George, my fusion and stuff is, and we just discussed this one. I'm going to go with Return to Forever, Romantic Warrior as my number 2. And I'm going to cheat, because a lot of us cheat on this panel. My favorite band is Genesis. So I get 2 albums for 1976. I get Trip of the Tail,
there you go.
Wind Wuthering.
Win by what, Danny?
It doesn't matter, Ken. It doesn't matter.
About 2 weeks.
And this was tough. When Pete sent this out, and you go through and you look at all the years, and you start talking about your top 3s, which he asked us to do, you could have picked any year, pretty much. You're going to find 3 great records. And with this channel and all the new music, I kind of felt bad that I was going back to the 70s. I'm thinking maybe I should be looking, because we are listening to a lot of new music, and there's a lot of new music out there. But this is the stuff that kind of we cut our teeth on, and you know, that was the easiest way. My favorite band, 2 albums in 1 year, I can't go wrong. So 1976 for me.
There you go, Eric.
How's everybody doing? I'm not actually this short. This is the chair. It's comfy as hell though, so I'm not complaining. All right, my year, I was worried that other people would pick my year, so I went with some less orthodox choices for my top 3. But I went with 1971, which I think is absolutely freaking stacked from top to bottom. Great albums. I brought my phone just so I wouldn't forget. You know, Aqualung, the Yes album, Nursery Crime, Inner Mounting Flame, Metal, Gentle Giants, Acquiring the Taste, Tarkus, Pictures at an Exhibition, Pawn Hearts, you know, not even Prog, but like Led Zeppelin 4, Master of Reality, Who's Next, you know, all 1971. All albums I figured somebody else might pick, so I avoided those. Smart. Except for my number 3 album here, which is Fragile. I think it's amazing. Yes, came out with 2 classic albums in 1 year. Yeah, see, it can be done. Their first album with Rick Wakeman, very good. Basically, I have my notes here, and it says it came out in the U.S. in 72, but it came out in the U.K. in 71, so it's making it in here. My number 2, I went with Caravan in the Land of Gray and Pink. This is, you know, Canterbury stuff. Kind of an interesting album. I think the first few songs in the album are very light and kind of fluffy and sort of bullshitty, but you know, they end it with 9 Feet Underground, which is like a 20-minute long epic, which is absolutely it is now. Take it home, use it, see what your kids think. Bullshitty. Try it. Anyway, yeah, 9 Feet Underground, killer song. Love it. And my last one, a little bit more unorthodox than the other 2, I went with Salisbury by Uriah Heep, which is, you know, not really a prog album, but the title track is, that's about 20 minutes long. I mean, it's pretty proggy. You know, it's got horns like you're in the middle of a Bond film, and then next thing you know, they're doing a little jazzy section. You know, killer song, killer band, killer album, love it. And that's my year, 1971.
Way to go.
Before Ken gets started, I brought this list for him.
That's awesome. Way to go. We should have had that.
So, Pete, is this the first time people are going to see your shirt not reversed image?
Yes.
Did you launch the Prezi? So I'm going to cheat, as you would expect. Shocking, right? So there were actually 2 years that are very important. The first one is 1976. 1976 was very important to me because that's when I discovered progressive rock. So I've told the story many times. I came home from school. and I put on the Mike Douglas show. And there's this guy with long blonde hair and a cape. This guy's like, when he's playing, this guy's like a total freak. And he's playing this unbelievable music. And I was amazed. I'd never seen or heard anything like it. Of course, it was Rick Wakeman, and he was doing the battle with his band he was doing on the Mike Douglas show. And, you know, I had long blonde hair. I didn't have a cape, but I thought that was pretty cool. So I mentioned it to a friend of mine, and she said, well, if you like that, I'm going to lend you an album. She lends me the first Emerson Lake and Palmer. And I didn't like it so much. You know, Wakeman, he had doing this big orchestral thing. It was very positive, very symphonic, very bombastic. ELP, they were singing about pebbles and knives and shit, and that just, it was very dark, very angry music. It wasn't my thing. I go to camp that summer, sleepaway camp. I was working with a friend. We were running the canteen in upstate New York. And guy had a boombox, and he had more cassettes than you could ever imagine. And I spent that summer listening to Triumvirate, Straws, Genesis. I learned to love ELP. I mean, it just went on, and that was like an awakening for me. So it became a passion, it became an obsession for me, and ultimately it became my life. It became how I make a living. And so 76 to me was one of my favorite years. It's relative to what I was asked to do. Getting back to the topic, 1973, I mean, there were no wrong answers. There's just some are more right than others. So 1973 was a phenomenal year. My favorite album of all time, Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Brain Salad Surgery. Probably, certainly for 1973, the most technologically forward and the most complex album. I think it's brilliant, and maybe the greatest album of all time. So maybe even better than Kind of Blue. Genesis selling by the pound. You have to say anything more than Earth at Fifth. I mean, that's, and then, you know, there was Dark Side of the Moon, Lost Songs in Aspic, but I'm going to go with the third album, which is kind of obscure. It's by a Japanese band called Far Out, and the name of the album is Nihoji. And the band was a predecessor to the Forest Family Band. It was very psychedelic, very progressive, consisted of 2 sidelong tracks. A lot of Sabbath-type riffs, very spacey, sort of like Black Sabbath in space. There's sitar. It's very unusual, not like anything else in my collection at the time, hopefully still to this point. And yeah, it was great. I mean, it was, 73 was just a phenomenal year. Italy was just, we could be here all day just talking about Italian bands. So there you go. That's what I got.
There you go.
So like Scott, I also picked 1977, but I picked it for a different reason. But before I tell you what that is, I'll tell you what my top 3 from 77 are. One is Farewell to Kings. If you think I wasn't going to pick the year with a Rush album, wrong. Number 2 has to be Animals. It's a bit of a dark horse of the discography. Luis isn't here, so I can say that The Wall's not the best one. But for me, Animals might be their best album. It's up there with Wish You Were Here for me. And my third one, Eric, you're going to like this, the first Half of the Man record.
Way to go.
That's why I wanted 77.
But the reason I picked 77 wasn't because it was chock full of releases. I looked at it a different way. So, say you're from a different planet, and you're coming here to learn about progressive rock. I know it's far-fetched, just let's hear me. And you want to learn about it. 77 would be a good year to be here. All of these best bands that we love from 70 to 77, the best parts of their discography is already out. You can go buy all that shit. You don't have to buy just Close to the Edge of the Horizon. You can buy all that stuff. You've got 7, 8, 9 years worth of stuff you can buy. Not only that, progressive rock's still on top. You still have ELP driving down the road with 38 tractor trailers. So it's still at its peak. So you're getting You're getting great live shows, and you've got lots of discographies to pick from. Right before it starts to really tail downhill in 78, 79. Still good stuff coming. Bruford, one of a kind, still coming. Oh, sorry, did I scare you? But 77, I think, would be a peak year to show up and discover this genre that we love. How's that for a dramatic stupid end?
Way to go. Great job.
All right, for me, everybody knows, for me, the best progressive music is progressive metal, not progressive rock. So I'm going to start my year off with a different number than everybody. It's not a 19. 2011. I was going through it, and even though Pete asked us to single out a top 3, I wanted a year with depth too, because as you're comparing them, a lot of years have a great top 3. So I'm looking for a year with some depth too. So 2011 has debuts from Caligula's Horus, Drunk Farben, Arch Mattheos, Maze Trick, Ben Drover, Akribi. It has catalog releases from Mirath, Redemption, Mastodon, Symphony X, Dream Theater, Wobbler, and Derek Sherinian. So right there, I was pretty impressed with that. My top 3, number 3 is Leprous, Bilateral. With apologies to Ken, that's the best Leprous album, not the one you put out. It's close though. They're a band from Norway, one of the biggest bands in the scene right now. I don't like what they're doing anymore, but this is the best of their catalog. Number 2 is Haken Visions. That is on Ken's label. Fantastic album. Either my favorite band, either my favorite album from them, or right there. Number 1 though is Dark Horse, Sun Cage, The Lotus Effect. They're from the Netherlands. Only a 3-album career. They ramped up as they went along. Culminating with this last album, one of those albums that's 70 minutes and change, but when it's over, you wish it wasn't over. There's a typical 15, 18-minute kind of epic on there, Prog standard. Pretty much has everything. Production's great, the songs are excellent, soloing is off the charts. So it was a great pain for me when they called it a day, but that's my number 1, and that's why I picked 2011.
Way to go.
It's kind of cool every time the toilet flushes, it almost sounds like applause. All right, so my year is 1972, and the reason why, Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull, Close to the Edge by Yes, and Foxtrot by Genesis. If you know me, you know
Hall of Famers.
3 of my all-time favorite albums, so I had to pick those. They're classics for a reason, and yeah, I mean, but all these years have been great. There's other ones we didn't talk about that are excellent as well. So what we'd like to do, now that you've heard some of ours, does anybody want to ask us a question, anybody on the panel, or tell us what your favorite album or favorite year of Prog was or is, and some of the albums.
What's your name?
My name is Phil from South Jersey. I don't have a question. I was thinking of a topic as I came up here, and I'm interested to see what your opinion is. Here's the scenario. If you replace one member of one of the bands that we talked about today, Genesis, ELP, and swap it, say Peter Gabriel singing for Yes, or Chris Squire playing bass for ELP, do you think can you make a case of that band being improved by making that?
And John Anderson singing for everybody would work.
Don't let the Lewis.
We still
Don't let the Lewis.
I was actually hoping he was here, but I was just saying something like that.
Well, even internal, like, I like Trick and Lind. I love Peter Gabriel, but I love Phil Collins singing for them too, right? I mean, I know he did backups with them, but those 2 albums for me do as much as the Gabriel. Not that I don't like the Gabriel stuff, but there, you lose Gabriel, don't you think they were like, what are we gonna do? You know?
Right.
And Phil steps in, and I thought he was amazing. So it's tough because, like you were saying with Squire, Squire's so definitive, right?
Right.
Hearing Squire with Genesis or like,
That was the one I was thinking of.
Certain things,
That's
right.
obvious. I think he really improved
Yeah, it's different sound.
I think it really depends on the chemistry of the bandmates, how they get along. I mean, do they see the same picture they are? Ego comes into play, and who dominates and that kind of stuff happens. What we already know when we saw personality changes just in yes, when Wakeman left, there was a difference. And then when you saw drama, as good as we like it later on, but it was different. So it can have the yes signature and some of the key things that we love about yes, but when we change the personality, it does change the vibe of the band. And not only that, when you grab that individual, the well might be dry. They might have used the best shit at the last album and say, anyway, I'm here to tag along. I didn't have nothing to bring to the table. That's what you wanted. You wanted to get everybody in the most creative peak, if anything ever were to be, successful and gel. So it really is about timing and personality from everything. Because you can't manufacture a band. We've seen supergroups put together and they haven't last more than one album or two because you can't force people to like each other and love each other and want to go through all that bullshit on the bus and everything else that you speak besides playing on stage. That takes real time. So I think that has a lot of dynamics. Is that you can play with the best people, but you get on your nerves. I mean, Rick Wakeman had a zero tolerance for that shit after a while. They were watching them get dueling for a while, and he said, give me something substantive. And so, yeah, that can affect everybody. So I think it's hard to say. You and I can write it on paper, it might look good, you can see it. But where you catch them on that personal page in life can be determined whether they're creative or not.
Absolutely.
Well, I think Ken's dream already came true with this when Greg Lake joined Asia. Wasn't that a thrill for you?
Yeah, it is terrible. I watched that.
Really? That's what you did with my joke?
We didn't get cable in Queens. I had to drive out to Long Island to watch that. I had a friend who had cable. Yeah. It was on MTV.
Yes, that's right. Asian.
Well, I think, Pete, what do you think of Peter Hamill singing Foxtrot?
I don't think.
I know how you guys love the autograph. Well, that was a joke too. What is wrong with the room?
We need booze.
Kind of to play off the question, I want to go to you for a second. So, how do you think it would work if you put a busier bass player into ELP instead of Greg Lake and have like a full-time singer in ELP? Like, could you picture like a Chris Squire in Emerson Lake Punk?
I think it would have changed the writing. I think Emerson would have changed the way he wrote. I mean, Lake, I thought, was a fine bass player. Started out as a guitarist.
No Chris Squire.
Yeah, no. Nobody was Chris Squire. That's the thing. So I think that Lake played the right notes. And I don't know that the music required him to do more than he did. The show was Keith Emerson. It was the whole show. So, what Van Dam would say, it was the whole fucking show. Right. So, yeah, I'm not sure that Chris Squire would have lasted very long in ELP. Right. Yeah. But yeah, Emerson, it was his way or the highway, I think. He called the shots. Good question.
Wrestling reference, and David Greco is standing right up here. Anybody else have any other questions?
I mentioned Joe Gromowski, Greater Hartford, Connecticut. I mentioned Chad. Everyone on the panel, real quick, favorite vocalist? Yes.
Somebody left a beer in the bathroom, or it's a urine sample. It's still cold, if it's urine, go to the doctor.
John Arch.
All right, George.
I'm going to go with Steve Hogarth.
Gotta go with Greg Lake. He's a good voice.
Steve Walsh.
Sure you do.
John Whitman. Peter Gabriel.
All right, quit your mouth.
Thank you.
say a couple of my favorite progressive albums are UK Live and ELP Live that came out in '79. I bought them when they came out. That's about it. I learned a lot of progressive stuff from listening to you guys.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Alex, also from Hudson Valley. With this topic, is there a year from the 80s or 90s that would work as like a runner-up, or are there just too many scattered gems throughout those decades?
Good question. I think there's a couple of years in the early 90s, like when Vanguard was hitting.
93,
1993, and as far as like the 80s, maybe one of the peak Marillion years, wasn't really much.
Slim tickets in the
I
80s.
thought, I think like 95 and 99, they had some really strong albums from Green Tea, Prog, but they were established by then. The early 90s, you were seeing the birth of a lot of these bands that fall in the Green Tea, Queensway. So it's a good question, but there is, it is live and well, it's just a matter of what your favorite band.
Does nobody want to tell us their favorite year and their 3 favorite albums? I got a John Wetton box set for you if you want to.
1970.
Jamie, come on.
He doesn't want to carry that home.
Wetton will sit here.
I'm surprised 74 didn't come up.
Yeah.
I mean,
A few more panels. Yeah, they're all good years. 70s.
All right, well, we have, what time is it now, folks? It's 1:40, so we've got about a 20-minute break until Hudson Valley Square, so feel free to go up and grab get a drink, something to eat. We got Sea Tranquility shirts up here for purchase if you're interested, and we'll see you for Hudson Valley Square.